All right, so it's practice time. Let's see how I sound. I already know I look bad, so that doesn't matter. Here we go. We're going to read from the New York Times daily newsletter, starting off for August 3rd. The path not taken. It is the biggest what if of the latest indictment of Donald Trump. What if Republican leaders in Congress had supported impeaching Trump and barring him from holding future office as punishment for his role in the January 6th attack? In the days after the attack, those leaders seemed ready to do so. Senator Mitch McConnell and Representative Kevin McCarthy told colleagues that they were repulsed by Trump's actions. Trump had egged on a January 6th rally with false claims of election fraud and told the crowd to, quote, fight like hell. Later that day, he praised the rioters. Soon, though, Republican leaders changed their mind. They feared that banning Trump from future office would anger their own voters. The leaders knew that Trump would be leaving the White House by January 20th regardless and chose to focus on resisting the agenda of his Democratic successor, Joe Biden. There was little question that members of Congress had the authority to ban Trump permanently from federal office. But once they chose not to do so, the legal consequences for Trump's actions became much more murkier. This is the challenge that Jack Smith, a special counsel overseeing the federal investigations of Trump, has taken on this week. Strong or weak? Shocking as it was, Trump's behavior on January 6 did not violate any laws in obvious ways. He never directly told those on January 6 to rally to attack Congress. During his speech that day, he even said he knew the protesters would behave, quote, peacefully and patriotically. It was part of a long-standing Trump pattern in which, as my colleague Maggie Haberman points out, he is often both all over the place and yet somewhat careful not to cross certain lines. As for Trump's broader effort to overturn the election result, no federal law specifically bars politicians from attempting to do so. Without such a law, Smith has relied on a novel approach. He has charged Trump with committing criminal fraud and violating conspiracy laws that were not written to prevent the overturning of an election result. A key part of these laws is that they revolve around a person's intent. Intent is core to the notion of fraud. Only if someone is knowingly trying to deceive others can he be committing a fraud. If he is spouting falsehoods that he genuinely believes, he isn't participating in an illegal conspiracy. That's why this case seems likely to revolve around Trump's state of mind. The first page of the indictment, referring to his claims of election fraud, states, quote, these claims were false and the defendant knew that they were false. By contrast, Trump's defense lawyers are likely to argue that he truly believed he had won. By airing his honest views, the lawyers will explain he was exercising his right to free speech. The Times' Michael Schmidt and Maggie Haberman write, legal experts are divided over the strength of the evidence on intent that Smith has presented. Some experts consider it strong, noting that the indictment cites repeated examples of White House aides and state officials telling Trump that he lost. Other legal analysts are more dubious because there is no testimony or recording in which Trump himself acknowledges the reality of his election loss. Of course, Smith may have additional evidence that he did not include in the indictment. For now, you can think of the new charges as being both more important and less solid than Trump's previous federal indictment, which involved his refusal to return classified documents. In the latest case, he was subverting the very foundation of democracy, the peaceful transition of power after an election, yet it remains unclear whether he broke any specific laws when he tried to do so. The most straightforward punishment, impeachment, conviction, and a ban on future office, was one that only Congress could have imposed, and congressional Republicans prevented that from happening. Quote, Smith has brought a difficult case, but it's a necessary case. David French, a Times opinion columnist, argues, quote, this is a trial America needs. Okay. So, just to comment on some of this, you readily admit that he didn't break any laws, but we need to prosecute him anyway. But this is not a witch hunt. No. I like this line. Legal experts are divided over the strength of the evidence on intent that Smith has presented. Some experts consider it strong. The Times does not give you any of these experts, of course, because there is no expert that thinks it's strong. They admit that he didn't break any laws, but we're going to charge him with crimes anyway. Should be fun to see how it works out.